Hey friends, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. If you're new here, hello and welcome. I am Taylor. Real quick before we get into this week's What's for Dinner, I wanted to say a happy Mother's Day to all you moms watching. I know not everybody's a mom, but I know I do have a lot of moms who watch my videos, so I just wanted to wish you all a happy Mother's Day and hope you have a nice, relaxing day today. I know I will be. I probably won't be replying to comments much because I will just be relaxing and spending some time with my family. Gonna go ahead and get into the video. I've got some delicious dinners to share with you, so if you like these kinds of videos, I hope that you will subscribe down below. Now let's go ahead and get into this week's What's for Dinner. Friday night was tuna casserole. I swear if I left it up to my family, they would eat this once or twice a week. It's definitely a staple in our house, and it's super easy to put together. I've shared it multiple times here on my channel, so I will leave a video link below how I do that. And we always have it with a can of peas. Saturday night, I made an Italian crescent bake. This recipe is one that I've been making for years. I think it was one of the first recipe videos that I shared on my channel like 4 or 5 years ago. So to start off, I'm just browning up a pound of ground beef with some Italian seasoning, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and some salt and pepper. I'm just gonna cook that until my meat is done. Once the meat was done, I just turned off the heat. If you had a bunch of excess grease, you could drain the grease, but I did not because I'm using like a leaner ground beef. And then I just stirred in some of my favorite marinara sauce. This actually wasn't my favorite, it was just ragu. It's what I had on hand, but you're going to want to use whatever your favorite is or whatever you have on hand. And you don't want to do the whole jar, you just want to do a little bit. I think the original recipe said about a cup. I just add some in, stir it around, see if it's all coated the way I want it to be, and add some more if I need to. Then I got a 9-inch pie plate out and sprayed that with some cooking spray, and then I'm going to start laying some crescent rolls down inside of it. You just need 1 tube of crescent rolls, and you're going to lay them the like wider side of the triangle down in the pan with the points of the triangle, the skinnier side, like overlapping the edge of the pan because you're going to be folding this over. And you just want to press the crescent dough into the bottom of the pie pan just to make sure you cover the whole bottom so you have like a nice crust on the bottom of your crescent pie thing. Then on top of that, I added some mozzarella cheese. I did about half of a cup. And then on top of that goes the ground beef and marinara sauce mixture. Just kind of spread it around over top of the mozzarella cheese. And then I folded the pieces of the crescent dough over it towards the center. And then topped with some more mozzarella cheese, about another half a cup. And sprinkled it with some Italian seasoning. And then this went in the oven on 375 for about 25 minutes. And here's what it looks like when it's done. Once it came out of the oven, I like to let it sit for like 5 to 10 minutes so that it slices better and like holds its shape. And then we just served this with a salad on the side. It was actually just me and Elijah eating this night until Andy got home later, but Lily was actually out to dinner with Grandpa. So it was just me and him, and we all love this meal. Lily was actually disappointed there weren't any leftovers for her to have the next day for lunch. Sunday night, we actually tried something new for dinner, and that is shrimp tacos. I have never made a shrimp taco before. Not even sure if I've had a shrimp taco before. But I saw some recipes online to make your own seasoning blend, or they said you could just use taco seasoning. So I decided to just use regular old taco seasoning. So I drizzled 1 pound of shrimp with a little bit of olive oil and then tossed them with some of the taco seasoning. I didn't measure it. I just coated them with a bunch of it. And then I heated up a skillet over like a medium-high heat. And I didn't add any oil to this pan since I had already coated the shrimp with some oil. So I just added those shrimp in there and a nice flat even layer so nothing was overlapping. I just let them cook for a couple minutes on the one side, and then I flipped them over and just let them cook for about a minute on the other side. They were already pretty much done. Here's what we had for toppings for our tacos. We've got some cilantro, some lettuce, some pico, some sour cream, some salsa, and then of course some warmed up flour tortillas and some cheese. And so here's my tacos. I had some of everything on there. Lily has been venturing out and putting cilantro on her tacos, and she had, I think, tomatoes on one of them or some of the pico, and then Elijah just had some lettuce on one. And I hate to say it, but the kids didn't really love this meal. They ate it. Elijah was like, it's good, but I wouldn't really want you to make it again. So I don't know what that's all about, but he ate it. Andy said it was basically like shrimp fajitas, which yeah, basically it was. And we liked it, but the kids didn't really like it. So I don't know that I would make it again, at least anytime soon. Maybe give them a little bit, then try it again maybe in a couple months or so, or a year. Monday I made meatloaf and a loaded mashed potato bake, and this meatloaf recipe is literally the only meatloaf recipe I have ever tried to make myself. I've had other meatloaf recipes before in the past, but not ones that I actually cooked myself, and this one I have been making for over 10 years. My dad bought me the Celebrating the Promise, like the breast cancer edition of the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook for Christmas in like 2007. And so I've had this cookbook ever since. And funny story, he hated meatloaf. He told me he did not like meatloaf, but I told him I was going to make the meatloaf from the cookbook that he bought me and he needed to try it. And he loved it. He loved the meatloaf. He couldn't say enough good things about the meatloaf, and that's like one of my favorite memories of him, because I don't have a lot of things that I remember since he did pass when I was 19. So I don't have a lot of memories, but that's one of my favorite memories. And so I don't need to try any other meatloaf recipes. This is the one that I'm going to make until the end of time. This is the meatloaf recipe that I make. I will not make another meatloaf recipe. So let's go ahead and get into it. So as I said, it comes from the Better Homes and Gardens cookbook. I have found it online, so I will link the recipe for you down below. You're going to start off with a big bowl. You're going to add your meat. I do 1.5 pounds of meat. This time I did do something a little bit different. Instead of 1.5 pounds of ground beef, I did 1/2 pound of ground pork and 1 pound of ground beef. And then the other 1/2 pound of ground pork that I had thawed out, I ended up just cooking, browning it up, and throwing it back in the freezer cooked to use in something else. And then I add in 3/4 cup of milk, 2/3 cup of breadcrumbs. I usually leave out the chopped onion. You could add it if you want to. Most of the time I just do onion powder. And then some dried parsley, some salt, some basil, and some pepper. And then I just get in there and mix that all up. Sometimes I try to start mixing it like with a spoon or something. That doesn't work very well. You really just got to get in there with your hands when you make meatloaf. So that is what I did. And then once it was all mixed really well, I got it in a loaf pan. And then this goes in the oven at 350 for about an hour. And then after the hour, I'll take it out and we'll put some topping on it. Now for these loaded mashed potatoes, I was just kind of winging it. I had some mashed potatoes in the freezer that were frozen and I thawed those out. I think they were from Christmas, honestly. And I wanted to get those used up. So I thawed those out, and then to them I added some melted butter, a big like spoonful of sour cream, some garlic powder, some of the onion salt from Trader Joe's. I had a little bit of mozzarella cheese. I added that, and then a bunch of cheddar cheese. And then I wanted to put bacon bits in this. I was just going to do the easy route and buy some bacon bits at the grocery store, but Aldi was out. So I ended up making my own bacon bits with just a pack of bacon. And I added probably a little more than half to the actual mashed potatoes. And I saved the other half of the pound of bacon for the top of the mashed potatoes. And I almost added like some instant mashed potatoes to this because I was like, man, it looks really like wet, like it's too liquidy, but it all worked out fine. This turned out great. And To begin with, I probably had about 4 cups of mashed potatoes like that I had frozen. And it did look really watery, but it turned out fine. It turned out excellent. Andy said it tasted like just the inside of a twice baked potato, which I really like the skin on a potato, but he doesn't. So to him, this was just like amazing. And I thought it was really good as well. So I got the potatoes in a casserole dish, topped them with some more cheddar cheese and the rest of that bacon, and then they went in the oven for 45 minutes on 350. When my meatloaf was almost done, I mixed together our sauce. So for this, I mixed together about a 1/4 cup of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and 1 teaspoon of dry mustard. I know some people just do ketchup on their meatloaf, but I feel like this sauce with the brown sugar and the dry mustard just makes the ketchup so much better. It's like sweet and a little bit tangy, and it's delicious. Highly recommend trying just the sauce. Even if you don't want to change your meatloaf recipe, change up your sauce, add some brown sugar and some dry mustard to your regular ketchup, and it'll be really good. So after an hour, I pulled my meatloaf out of the oven, and depending on how lean of meat you use, you might have a lot of grease that's pooled like around the edges and on the top of the meatloaf. So I just take a paper towel and just kind of dab that off, or you might have to kind of actually dump it off if you have a lot. And then I just spread my sauce over the top and then stick this back in the oven for about another 10 minutes or until it reaches the proper internal temperature. And here is what everything looked like when it came out of the oven. We've got our potatoes and our meatloaf, and I just let everything sit and like set for about 5 to 10 minutes before cutting into the meatloaf. To go with our meatloaf and our loaded mashed potatoes, I just made a can of green beans. This meal was delicious. I will definitely be trying to make these potatoes again in the future. Definitely a great use of those frozen leftover mashed potatoes from Christmas. Turned out better than I expected. Tuesday night was another family favorite that I have been making for a long time here on my channel, and that is taco spaghetti. I've shared it so many times in What's for Dinner videos, but it also has its own standalone video. The only thing that I'm doing different is using the liquid, like canned Rico's nacho cheese sauce in place of the like block of Velveeta cheese. That's the only thing that I'm doing different, and it tastes just as good. So I will leave a video linked down below for y'all if you are interested in trying this recipe. Wednesday night we tried the stuffed gnocchi from Trader Joe's. So I started off with my chicken that's going to be going with the stuffed gnocchi. I've got 2 chicken breasts here that I've sliced in half horizontally. I like to do this anytime I cook chicken pretty much, but especially when I'm cooking it in my cast iron pan. I just feel like it gets a more even cook and it cooks faster because it is thinner. So I'm just seasoning up this chicken on both sides with some garlic powder, some Tony's Creole seasoning, and some Badia Complete. Then I've got my large cast iron pan here on the stove, and it's already heated up over a medium heat. And to that I'm adding a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of butter to cook my chicken in. I'm going to put my chicken in the pan and let it cook on the one side for about 4 to 5 minutes, and then I will flip it over and let it do the same thing on the other side until it was completely cooked through. And I do that so you get a nice crispy sear on the outside, and it just turns out so good cooked in this olive oil and butter, especially with the Badia Complete seasoning and the Tony's Creole seasoning. Okay, and here's that gnocchi that I picked up at Trader Joe's. It's potato gnocchi stuffed with some tomato sauce and mozzarella, and I really just cooked it according to the package directions. So they said to heat up your pan over like a medium heat and heat up some olive oil or butter. I ended up doing a little bit of both instead, and then you just add your frozen gnocchi to the pan and toss it in the oil and butter and let it cook for about a minute. I didn't really see what the point of this was. I think what they wanted was it to like sear it and get kind of crispy on the outside, but because it was still frozen solid, it didn't really do anything. So I ended up doing this step again later, which you'll see me do. So once all that butter was melted, then I added in the gnocchi. I tossed it around, let it like cook for a minute, but it didn't do much. And then it said to add in 4 tablespoons of water and then cover this with a lid. So this is where it's really going to cook. It's going to steam them. So I let it do its thing for a couple of minutes, let them get nice and steamed. And then when they were nice and tender and warmed through, I took the lid off and like let these really let the rest of that water evaporate, and then let these really sear on one side. And I wish I would have done it again on another side, but I like did not touch these once I took that lid off for about 5 minutes. Just let them get really nice and crispy on that one side. And that's the only thing that I feel like I would do differently next time, is like make sure to really turn them over and get all sides, or even just the other side, nice and crispy, because other than that, they turned out delicious. So then once I had them crispy how I wanted them, I added in a little bit of marinara sauce and just tossed them in that and let that marinara sauce get warm, and then these were ready to eat. You don't have to add a sauce if you don't want to. I'm sure they would be great just with the butter, but I thought the kids would like them more for sure with some marinara sauce. And to go with our gnocchi and our chicken, I topped the gnocchi with a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and then those of us that like salad had salad with this, and Lily just had some fresh veggies. Most of us loved the gnocchi. That would be me and the kids. We loved the gnocchi. We thought it was really good. Andy didn't love it. Like, he would eat it again, but he would probably prefer not to. I think it's just a texture thing. I think maybe if I had gotten a good sear all the way around, he would have liked it better. It was definitely a little bit, like, he prefers the gnocchi when it's a little bit firmer, like, and it has that crispy exterior, and then you bite into the soft, but there wasn't much crispy about it. It was like really just soft all the way through. That one seared side didn't do much for crispness, so I think that was really his only problem with it. So I might make him again for him like that, and see how he likes them that time. But the kids, I told them even if Andy doesn't like it, we'll still pick it up again and eat them maybe for lunch, like a little quick lunch one day. But yeah, I would recommend those if you like gnocchi. Just follow the little tips, maybe sear them a little bit longer. It is Thursday, and as I've said before in previous What's for Dinner videos, Thursday is when the kids have martial arts, so I've been making crock-pot meals, but this Thursday Andy was off, so we decided to just pick up mellow mushroom on our way home from the kids' martial arts. So we just got one large, mighty meaty, I think is what they call it, pizza, all the meats on it. So that is going to be our dinner for Thursday. And that is going to be it for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments down below if you plan on trying any of these recipes. A lot of them were our family favorites and things that I make often. So I'd like to know if you guys make it and if you like them. As I mentioned at the beginning, today is Mother's Day, so I hope that any of you moms watching are having a happy Mother's Day. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!